acsportstips.com. We have our Week 4 game analysis of a great matchup in Norman, Oklahoma, with the 15th ranked Kansas State Wildcats traveling to the Sooners to take on head coach Bob Stoops. Sooners are ranked 6th in the country, sitting at 2-0. Wildcats 3-0, sitting at number 15. This is the first Big 12 matchup for both teams. We're going to give you some news and notes about each team, what each team has to do to have a shot to win, and we'll give our predictions a little bit later in the week. So stay with us at www.acsportstips.com. Let's talk a little bit about this series. The last 5 meetings have all been won by Oklahoma by an average of 22 points per game. So that's something, if you're a Wildcat faithful and a Wildcat fan, you want to erase that. Wildcats are more of a blue-collar team. Oklahoma more of a finesse type of team so far. So it's a clash in styles, and we have to see how it matches up. It's going to be a great night. It's a 7:50 start on Fox. It's going to be a great night, and we're going to break it down for you right now. Kansas State, they are led by their leader, senior quarterback Colin Klein. They're sitting at 3-0. They've had 3 straight home games now. Week 1, they dismantled Missouri State. They followed that up with a big victory over the Miami Hurricanes. And then last week, in week number 3, they had a lackluster effort against North Texas, eking out a 35-21 victory at home for their 3 straight wins, 3 straight home games, a little lackluster. Did Bill Schneider hold back in the game plan a little bit? We don't know, but we're going to break it down for you right now. Let's talk about the Wildcats. They are led by Colin Klein. He's a gutty performer. We had some question marks in his passing ability earlier in the season. Right now, he has erased them and shown he has matured in the passing game. He had a great effort last week. He rushed for 85 yards and a touchdown. He threw for another 230 and added 2 more touchdowns passing. And that opens things up for the Wildcats, and they're going to need that type of approach as they head to Norman to take on the Sooners. Look for Bill Schneider and company to work in their running back John Hubert into the mix. He's having a great season. He's averaging 6.9 yards per carry, and what John Hubert adds to the mix is that he takes the pressure off of Colin Klein in the running game. He adds a little dimension that they didn't have last year. So John Hubert is an X factor in this game. Look for Bill Schneider to mix things up early, because he does not want to be one-dimensional heading into this matchup. He showed last year they stood toe-to-toe for at least a quarter with Oklahoma, but in the second half, Oklahoma pulled away because Colin Klein in that offense sort of didn't move down the field. They didn't mix it up. They became predictable, and Oklahoma keyed off of that. Look for Bill Schneider to sort of mix things up offensively, mixing in the pass, the vertical passing game, the way he did it against Miami, and the Kansas State Wildcats can be in this ball game. Defensively for the Wildcats, you have to take the approach that they took with the Miami Hurricanes. They allowed Miami to methodically move down the field, but when Miami moved into the red zone, they clamped down and held the Hurricanes to field goals and not touchdowns. They're going to need that same type of approach led by their linebacker, their leader, former Hurricane Arthur Brown, and their senior safety, Ty Zimmerman. They did have a very good effort against the Hurricanes, and that's what allowed Kansas State to pull away. They methodically allowed Miami to move down the field, and with this passing game and Landry Jones, I believe you're going to see the same sort of approach. Don't give up big plays. Do not play man-to-man coverage early. Play man a little bit when the Sooners get into the red zone. Look for zone defense and look for a lot of blitzes out of Bill Schneider and his staff to force Landry Jones into quick reads and intermediate to short throws, the same way UTEP, who had a very good effort against Oklahoma in week 1 defensively. They forced short to intermediate throws by Landry Jones, and they were in that ball game most of the way, only giving up 2 late touchdowns to lose 24-7. So look for the same sort of approach for the Wildcats defensively. Offensively for Oklahoma, they're a finesse team. They live and die with the big play. That's what Bob Stoops has built into his air raid offense, sort of, with Landry Jones. He gets a running game now led by Damian Williams. He's having a phenomenal season. He's rushed for 5 touchdowns, and he has 13-yard average per rush. That's going to take a lot of pressure off of Landry Jones. Look for Bob Stoops to utilize Damian Williams early in the game to sort of loosen up and be, a little bit off balance, so to speak, and not just jump into the passing game. Look for Bob Stoops to utilize Damian Williams early in that game to see if he can run on that Wildcat defense, and if he gets success, that should open things up in the passing game. Defensively for Oklahoma, they need to allow Colin Klein to beat them with his arm. I know we had some question marks with Colin Klein in his vertical passing game. He has erased them, but his number one asset that he brings the Wildcats is his ability to run. You've seen what he can do against Miami and their defense. Look for Bill Schneider to sort of bring him along the way. He would love Colin Klein to rush 40 times in this ball game, because then that means the Wildcats are winning the line of scrimmage and utilizing the time of possession, and then that will mean that the Wildcats will be in this game from start to finish. If you're Bob Stoops and his brother Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, you're going to want to shut down the running lanes. You're going to want to see if Colin Klein, up to date, he's done fantastic, but can he throw against that Sooner secondary? They're going to want to test that and look for them to take the running lanes away from both Jonathan Hubert and Colin Klein. Now, the difference is that they struggled, Oklahoma did, against the UTEP Miners with the zone read. In week 1, they gave up 200 yards plus rushing to the UTEP Miners. Now, Oklahoma gets a break because they get an extra week to prepare for this game. They played week 1 in the victory over UTEP. They followed it up with a win at Florida A&M. They were off last week, so they get 2 weeks to prepare for Kansas State. Does that help Oklahoma? Personally, we don't like a bye early in the week, and we'll tell you why. We think a bye is more beneficial a little bit later in the year, after teams have been a little bit worn down and they have injuries. It helps teams later in the year to heal if they have a big game. Early in the season, especially when the offense is not clicking on all cylinders, a bye early in the season can be a detriment. It can throw off the timing in the passing game, and it could throw off the timing defensively on blitzes and reads of that defense. You're not up to par game speed-wise, and that could be a detriment defensively. So how does Oklahoma respond with this bye week, both offensively in the passing game and defensively in stopping the zone read with Colin Klein? Because I don't look at that effort last week against Florida A&M as a dominant performance. The Oklahoma has superior talent to Florida A&M. Now, the last game that you had was against inferior talent. You don't play the following week, and now you're going to be matched with a very physical Wildcat team on both sides of the line of scrimmage. The Wildcats have a very good offensive line, and they're going to try and test the will of the Sooners early in this matchup, because if it's one thing that the UTEP Miners exploited, it was Oklahoma physically tough on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't show that and exhibit that week 1, so we'll have to see which defense shows up for the Sooners in this matchup. So we're going to have a prediction a little bit later in the week, but we want you to stay with us. We're going to break down some other games, and we'll have our predictions for this game and other games up on our website Thursday morning at www.acsportstips.com. Have a great day, and college football is the best, so stay with us.